Hi everyone, and welcome to the Softball Canada Speaker Series presented by Rawlings Canada. Today's webinar is Rounding the Bases with our special guests Joey Lai and Erica Polidori from the women's national team. Although the softball season is currently suspended in many areas of the country due to the COVID-19 situation, we are happy to have the opportunity to engage with everyone listening at home, and we hope you will enjoy listening to our great speakers. Bonjour à tous et bienvenue à la série de webinaires de Softball Canada présentée par Rawlings Canada. Le webinaire d'aujourd'hui est au tour des buts avec nos invités spéciales Joey Lai et Erica Polidori de l'équipe nationale féminine. Quoique la saison de softball est présentement suspendue dans plusieurs régions du pays en raison de la situation COVID-19, on est heureux d'avoir la chance de nous engager avec vous et on espère que vous aimerez écouter à nos excellents invités. Before we get started, we want to thank everyone for joining us and for following the social distancing measures as directed by the Government of Canada and your local health authorities. Softball Canada has been monitoring the situation closely and is posting regular updates on its website. The softball season is starting up in some areas of the country. We strongly encourage that you follow your local, provincial, and territorial association return to play guidelines while respecting all government public health regulations. Avant de commencer, on veut vous remercier d'être avec nous et de suivre les mesures de distanciation sociale telles qu'identifiées par le gouvernement du Canada et vos autorités locales de soins de la santé. Softball Canada surveille la situation de près et publie des mises à jour régulières sur son site web. La saison de softball commence dans certaines régions du pays. On vous encourage de suivre les lignes directrices de retour au jeu de votre association provinciale et territoriale tout en respectant les directives de vos départements gouvernementaux de santé publique. This webinar series is presented by our proud partners at Rawlings Canada. Please join Rawlings Canada, Softball Canada, and all of our provincial and territorial partners by marking your calendars for National Play Catch Week starting this Saturday, and that will take place from June 21st to 27th. Cette série de webinaires est présentée par nos fiers partenaires à Rawlings Canada. Veuillez joindre Rawlings Canada, Softball Canada et nos partenaires des associations provinciales et territoriales de softball en marquant votre calendrier pour la semaine nationale de lancer et attraper la balle du 21 au 27 juin. We also want to recognize our great partners at Home Run Sports who go above and beyond to support the game of softball. Home Run Sports is the exclusive umpire apparel supplier and online store of Softball Canada. To purchase your Softball Canada branded apparel, click on the Fan Zone link on the homepage of the Softball Canada website to access the Home Run Sports store. On veut aussi reconnaître nos excellents partenaires à Home Run Sports qui vont au-delà des attentes pour soutenir le sport du softball. Home Run Sports est le fournisseur exclusif de vêtements d'arbitre et le magasin en ligne de Softball Canada. Pour acheter vos vêtements de Softball Canada, clique sur le lien du magasin sur la page d'accueil du site web de Softball Canada pour accéder au magasin de Home Run Sports. So my name is Gilles LeBlanc. I'm the Manager of Marketing and Communications at Softball Canada. And I will be your host for this webinar. Allow me to introduce our two guests for today. So first joining us is Joey Lai, who joined our women's national team in 2010 after being one of the final cuts in 2009. She has played in each of the last 5 World Championships, winning 3 bronze medals, and the last 3 Pan American Games with a gold and 2 silver. She is currently training to compete in the Tokyo 2020 Olympic Games that are scheduled to take place in 2021. Welcome, Joey.
Thank you so much for having me. Excited to be here.
Great. So I'm also happy to welcome with us today Erica Polidori, who played for our junior women's national team program in 2010 and 2011 before being added to the women's national team roster in 2013. She played in the 2014, 2016, and 2018 Women's World Championships, winning a pair of bronze medals, while also winning a gold medal at the 2015 Pan American Games and earning a silver last year in 2019. Erica is also a member of the current women's national team core training group for the Olympic Games. Thank you for joining us as well, Erica.
Thanks for having me.
Okay. So before we get started, I just want to ask a couple more questions on your careers and how things have been going for you guys. So we'll start with you, Joey. Can you talk about your minor softball career?
Absolutely. So start off in just a local house league and joined with some fellow teammates and started playing in Ajax in a tier 2 league. And after that first year, I almost quit softball, and thankfully my assistant coach convinced me to stick with it and give it one more year. And so we actually created a program organization called the Scarborough Spirit, and that's where I played the rest of my years up until I left for school. And we had a really successful team. Unfortunately, it was just a one team, one and done. No organization grew from there, but we won a lot and played in every national championship tournament. I think after 1999, aside from one, and medaled in every one that we went to. So we had a very successful program, and I learned a lot from that coaching staff, and grew up an outfielder my entire career until I went away to school.
Good. So talking about school, so we're going to move on to your career. So after you finished your minor softball days, you attended Williams College, an NCAA Division III school, and played both hockey and softball there. How did you come across that opportunity, and what was that experience like for you?
So I was actually recruited for the hockey program and was looking for a place where I'd get a good education and be able to play both softball and hockey. So I sent my VHS videotape to the softball coach and asked if it would be a good fit. And when the answer came back that yes, I'd be given an opportunity to join the team, it was just a dream come true for me to be able to go to such a great school and play both sports. So thankful for hockey for giving me that opening, and for that coach seeing me at a tournament and then having the opportunity to pursue both.
And I also love the story on how you joined Team Canada. After the 2008 Olympics, about half our team retired. You came out for a tryout in 2009, and you were one of the last cuts on that team. Then you came back the following year and tried out again in 2010. Stuck around. What did you take from that experience in 2009, and what did you work on that year to take your game to the next level for that following year?
Yeah, so that experience was extremely eye-opening for me, and even just attending the tryout, my parents signed me up for it, and I thought they were crazy. I didn't want to go, and then as soon as I stepped foot on the field at the tryout, I had so much fun. I was very nervous, but had a lot of fun there, and started realizing that maybe I did have what it would take to crack the roster at some point. And when I got invited to the final camp, my dreams then started to explode, and being one of the final cuts, it was heartbreaking to go, in a 2-week span. I went from not thinking I should be there to thinking that I might be able to, and having those dreams just crushed. And I was very appreciative of the opportunity to chat with the coaching staff and for them to express the things that I should work on in the year moving forward prior to the next year's tryouts. And funny enough, the only thing I remember from that conversation is base running. Just being told that the next level technique and just running technique in general to become even more efficient on the bases. I'd always been a good base runner and had always prided myself on that, but just realizing that to get to the next level, that even the things I thought were a strength of mine needed to be tweaked and brought back down to the fundamentals. And so over that next year, I took advantage of every piece of help I could get, and I was coaching at my alma mater that year, and my head coach would come to practice early, stay late, and just hit me ground ball after ground ball, fly ball after fly ball. And I worked with the speed coach on campus that year as well to really hone in on the technique of base running. Still not perfect, but I've made a lot of strides, and just went into that next year's tryout with a little more confidence and showing off the hard work from the year before.
So you've been on the women's national team now for 10 years. So, can you even believe that? What have you seen about the growth of the program over that period? Because obviously we had to, start basically from scratch after those 2008 Olympics. We didn't know softball was going to be back in the Olympics until, 2015. what have you seen within the program in that decade?
I don't even know where to start. Everything. It's unbelievable to think about the difference between this year's team, this year's group of athletes, this year's coaching staff compared to where we were a decade ago, and the dedication from the athletes and the willingness of the coaches to push us so far outside of our comfort zone and to be so detailed in creating our workout program, our practice plans, and to also be pushing to get better every single day. And from the top of the staff to every player on our roster, we all want to get better and all want to push each other to do that. The team culture has done a 180 as well. Just the difference that I feel, or I felt, from joining the team as a new player in 2010 to the experience we try to provide the new players now in 2020 is just night and day different. And we love each other, we work hard for each other, we push each other and support each other, and it's just such an amazing group to be a part of.
Great. So thank you very much for joining us for today's base running drills and tips. So we'll be getting into that shortly. So we'll move you over to you now for a couple of questions now, Erica. So you are a member of the Brentford Bobcats, who won a number of Canadian championships before you joined the national team program. What are your fondest memories from playing with that group?
It's kind of funny because listening to Joey, I realized we kind of had the same experience. I played with the same team, same organization, all growing up, and a good core of those girls from beginning to end. And looking back, like, we're still very close, and there's a lot of memories that are off the field. Like most of the stuff that I am most fond of are like those long car rides, or like those the jokes or the funny memories, or the barbecues between games or whatever it was, and much more about that and that kind of community and that connection more than the game results. I couldn't tell you what we won and what we didn't and what the years were, but just like a very good feeling of family, I guess.
Let's talk about a bit about your time with the junior women's national team program. So that team finished 5th at the World Championships in 2011, but featured 6 players that are currently on our Olympic training group, including all 4 starting outfielders from last summer. Was there something special about that team that pushed you all to keep going, and was it helpful for you to go through kind of entering the women's national team program together with some of those athletes?
Yeah, definitely. I think that, sometimes we talk about it too, just, oh, I wish we could have done better. And I think we had a lot of potential. And it just kind of didn't work out. I know for me, it was like a big learning curve going from just like Canadian championships and local events and starting to play against international teams and what that competition looked like. So for me, it was just like very eye-opening, very different. And so, yeah, I learned a lot playing with the junior team. And then I think, like you said, like it was really nice to kind of transition from the junior team to the senior team with some sort of like pre-made friendships and bonds. And you have, kind of that comfort with some people that are going through the same thing. And that kind of helped the transition, being a bit less intimidated going to the senior team from the junior team.
You had an unbelievable tournament in 2018 at the World Championships there in Japan. Everything seemed to be clicking for you at the plate. Can you talk more about that tournament? How was that for you? It was probably, I think you guys went to Japan the year before, so kind of acclimatized a bit to the culture, but that tournament in particular, you guys took really big strides. How was that from your perspective?
Yeah, I think you nailed it. Like, we were very comfortable in that environment by then, and for me, it was a really good chance to play and compete against the best competition. And the last couple of years, there have been a lot more teams that have been very competitive, and that showed at that Worlds. And it was just a lot of fun just to compete. And I think as a whole, like offensively, our team just did so well that week, and it was just very contagious, and everyone just kind of fed off that success, and it was so fun. And I know that we came up a little short of what we wanted to accomplish. We didn't get that Olympic qualifying spot, but I think it really kind of set us up to kind of like the path and the direction that we wanted this program to go to and where we are now.
And I think it really showed, you know, the team in the world that, you know, we belong right there with USA and Japan. I mean, that was a tight 2-0 loss that we lost to Japan in that bronze medal game. And it was, you know, basically one mistake that swung that around. And so I think it really put us on the map and, you know, put us in that conversation for a gold medal coming up in 2021. So even at that World Championship as well, you were voted by your peers to be part of the WBSC Athletes Commission. Could you maybe talk a bit about your role with them?
Mm-hmm. I'll admit that before I applied and took on this role, that I was very naive about kind of behind the scenes, all the work that goes into it, all the people that are a part of the different federations. So that was really humbling to be voted to be that athlete rep for women's softball, and be able to kind of join in that conversation and offer, you know, the athlete perspective and be able to vote on certain decisions that I know that would affect our program and women's softball and everything for years to come. And it's just been an honor to be able to advocate for everyone and try to, you know, do my best to push this sport as far as we can take it.
Good. Okay, so we're going to get started in the topic for today, which is base running. So the first thing that we're going to talk about on this, so I think we're going to start with Joey on this one. So the first topic, components of a good base runner. So what makes a good base runner in your eyes, Joey?
For me, I think being heads up is one of the most important things, and understanding all of the different aspects that go into making decisions on the base path. And I'm sure we'll talk later about drills and ways to incorporate that into practices and whatnot, but just the understanding that on the bases, your job has not finished. You know, you had your at bat and now you reached base, and your job is just starting. That there are position of the opponent, so where everybody's playing on the field, the speed and direction that the ball is in play, tendencies of the pitcher. If you have some speed, you know, understanding if they're a drop ball pitcher or change up pitcher, are there going to be extra opportunities to take extra bases? Tendencies of the catcher, you know, are they right-handed, left-handed? Do they have a tendency to try to pick off base runners, or can you get a little extra step on them? What's their arm like? And understanding the conditions of the field as well. So speed of the infield, what the ball does in the outfield grass, what happens when the ball hits the backstop. So there's just so many things that go into understanding the situation and being able to have instinctual reads on the bases. And a lot of people, when asked this question, will say, well, speed, you have to be fast to be a good base runner. And I definitely disagree. I've seen some really slow base runners who make amazing reads and surprise the defense and take extra bases and are really aggressive and make good decisions. And they're often better base runners than someone who has relied on their speed their whole life and hasn't taken the time to understand all these different components that go into it.
Do you have anything that you would add to that, Erica?
Totally. I mean, like what Joey said, in the international game, you see a lot of older players that, are they, you know, as fast as they used to be? No, but they're so smart and their softball IQ is so high, and they do things on the bases that, you know, more inexperienced players wouldn't think to do. And they're more successful than whoever's the fastest, really.
So I'll ask this to you, Erica. In what ways can you incorporate base running into practices outside of base running drills in particular?
I think it's really easy, actually, like especially being quarantined and kind of having to figure out new ways to do things. But as far as like any sort of warm-ups, like our sport, when we work on our speed, it's a lot of, quick change of direction, short bursts of speed. If we're doing a sprint, it's not, a 100-meter sprint, it's some sort of quick acceleration to top speed. And so anything that you can do that with not that much space, you can be really efficient. And I think that it's a lot of fun if you can get a second person out there and, challenge each other. If it's, you're mirroring someone and you're trying to copy their change of direction and they're trying to shake you, or if someone's calling out a certain number and that's the cone you have to touch, or whatever it is, there's like very quick and easy ways with not that much space that you can work on, I think, especially reacting and your change of direction.
Yeah. And now, Joey, you've been coaching for a few years. How do you incorporate that in practices?
Yeah, a lot of our warm-up drills, as well as Erica mentioned, we try to incorporate some speed and change of direction. And then in practice, I would just say, how often do we have BP? And how many opportunities does that give us to practice reads off the bat as a base runner? And it's such a simple way with something that people do every day at practice to get those reads for base runners. So, set up a screen in front of a base or all the bases and have the people who have just had their reps at the plate, they're now getting their reads on the bases, and they don't have to run it full out every time, but just reacting those first few steps and getting those reps in helps a lot.
And now I'll ask this to you, Erica. So, when you're working on speed and quickness, do you mostly do that, in the off season, or do you kind of mix it in during season? You do more of it at particular times of the year?
I like to do it all the time. I think there's always like something that you can improve. So a big thing is just, just taking care of like the little things and having intention and purpose no matter what you're doing. So when we're doing like our dynamic warm-up, I'm working on different things that I know for my running mechanics that I need to work on. So even though it's, just high knees or just skips or whatever, it seems like you're just going through the motion, make sure that it's kind of applicable to something that you want to work on. And so I try to keep my focus there, and then we do speed drills all year round. And like I said, like we're very competitive, and it's really fun to make it into like a game and just you kind of forget that it's you're working on stuff and improving your speed when you're doing that.
So Joey, what would be your favorite base running drill?
Ooh. So I mentioned live reads off the bat. I think if you were to ask me at any day, it's live, just getting as many live opportunities as possible. There's one drill that I think as a coach incorporates a lot of different things for base runners. So 5 runners are going at a time, one person starting at the plate, one person starting at the fence and behind them, kind of chasing them, one person at first, one at second, one at third. And so the person at home plate is running home to first and running through first and practicing those fundamentals. The person that's kind of chasing them is rounding, going all the way to second. So they're going home to second and sliding into second. The person at first base is going first to third. They're rounding third and then diving back into third base. And the person at second is going second to home. And then the person at third is getting a lead, tagging up, and then running through home. And you can incorporate different slides, dives, whatever you want at each base. And it also, depending on the size of your team, can incorporate some conditioning. And just, you can incorporate base coaches as well. Have the third base coach standing there who's instructing the runner coming into their base so that they have to react to that as well. So just a drill that allows you to, cater it to what your team needs to work on that day, and also keeps a lot of people active at one time.
That's great. Do you have a favorite, Erica?
I do. Mine is kind of like the idea of beating the ball. So, I can think back, or I've seen like a lot of young players where say they're running first to second, and the ground ball gets hit through that right side, and they either stop and back up, they try to jump over it, whatever it is, and they lose all their momentum. And they lose the opportunity really maybe to go first to third. And so just the idea of beating the ball would be practicing running and beating the ball kind of to the spot where you would intersect. And it's really easy, like you can do it with like really little kids and just roll the ball and get them to kind of getting more of like a live read of like how fast the ball is going, the direction of the ball. And then they get to learn like what their speed is, when to expect that, okay, I can actually run and the ball will be behind me. And then obviously just incorporating more just balls off the bat. If they're more advanced, they can see different bounces, but really getting them to push the envelope in practice. And, you know, if the ball ends up hitting their leg, then it hits their leg, no big deal. But at least now they know kind of like their limits. And you just have so much more confidence when it's in a game and you know, because you've practiced it a bunch, that you can beat the ball and it'll end up behind you and you can take that extra base.
I think that's a great one, just to work on that confidence and that comfort level for knowing, you know, speeds of the balls. And it can get competitive too. I mean, you roll the ball a bit faster and, you know, kids have fun, and that's a good way to kind of teach those skills.
Yeah.
So we're going to move on to our next topic now, which is base running techniques. So I'll start with you, Joey. What are the must-have elements for running through first base?
This is something that I think is overlooked by programs everywhere. And, you know, the number of players that get to the college or university level and have to get taught, you know, to hit the front of the base or to break down athletically and quickly is often mind-blowing to me. So just another reinforcement of how much base running can be overlooked and the importance of teaching it. So, you know, hitting the front side of that base is going to allow you to get there sooner, and breaking down quickly. There are often overthrows, or the first baseman has bobbled the ball, or, you know, maybe you thought it was going to be a single, but somebody in the field has bobbled the ball and now you can take second. So just the ability to break down quickly and athletically and in a position where you're able to move towards second base quickly is super important. So those are the main things that we talk about running through first base.
Now, Erica, when you're running towards first base, is there a kind of a corner of the bag that you're looking for that foot to land on? And are you trying to go kind of in the middle of the, you know, as close to the edge of the double base, or on the outside or on the inside, or does it depend on where the throw is coming from?
I like if I'm just running through first base.
Yeah.
I just try to get there the closest piece of the base I'm reaching for. I would rather, I think it's faster if you kind of lunge and reach than stutter and take an extra step to get to the base. But yeah, just the real importance of what it actually means to run through the base instead of running, you know, to or on the base is huge. But I think that's the most important, just like kind of eye on that front, whatever I can get to the fastest, that's what I'm aiming for.
Yeah, and sometimes it depends on your contact point too, right? Like if you're coming out of the box, you know, you might have to adjust just a little bit to get back online there, but it's good. So Erica, could you talk to a bit more about what are the key points for leadoffs at different bases and returning to those bases?
Sure, I think obviously there's kind of different leadoffs for different bases. We talk about like a bigger leadoff at second base, obviously, about 3 steps off first. And then at third base, just a little more cautious. It's not like you're running full speed into home, so it might be more of a, not a walking lead, but a bit more conservative. And then what I like to do is just kind of be ready, and like Joey was saying about base running in general, like have a plan and know what to kind of expect. Be ready for maybe a pickoff, be ready for a ball in the dirt, be ready for the ball that's hit and have a plan of what you want to do and how you want to do that. But I think I see a lot with like young players that they get on the bases and they kind of forget, or they think that there's different running mechanics when you're setting up on the bases than if you were just to sprint. So just kind of keeping those same mechanics for everything, you know, you're pumping your arms, you're using, you know, you're pushing the ground away from you, being nice and athletic, not standing up too fast, being nice and balanced. Those are really important things to keep in mind.
Now, Joey, let's talk about maybe the foot that's on the bag when you're pushing off. Is that more of a comfort level for individual players, or is it something that you kind of try to teach them to always use the same foot so they can be watching the play, or is that something that goes on?
Yeah, I think the foot preference would be comfort for most people, and it can be advantageous to have your left foot on the base and your right foot in behind if you can get the timing correct. So a lot of people will start in that position but not have taken their first step by the time the pitchers release the ball. So if you're not getting that foot off the base at the correct time, then you might as well start with your other foot forward. And but I think for me, I love having and teaching the foot using the base as a starting block. If you think about sprinters, they have a starting block for a reason, and it's because it allows them to propel more in the direction they want to go. And so that's something that I talk about a lot, and just allowing the athletes to play around with, you know, which foot they want to have forward, but always ensuring that that they're using that base to their advantage. And, you know, I think on a general start, having your left foot on the base is the way to go. Now when you're tagging, that could differ depending on where the ball is, to allow excuse me, to allow you to have the best view of the play when you're tagging up, but still using that base as a starting block.
Good. All right, so we'll get into a bit more rundown situations now. So Joey, we'll start with you on this one. So when a rundown occurs, what is the job and focus of the lead runner and also the trail runner?
Great question. So I mean, you always want to push the fielders to make as many throws as possible. So you're the lead runner, you're in that rundown. You want to force the defense to have to work really, really hard to get you out and take advantage of any mistake that they might make. And the more throws they make, the more likely it is for them to throw the ball away. And so I would say that that's your number one priority there, is stay alive as long as you can and force the defense to make a mistake. And then as the trail runner, getting as many bases as possible. So it's more likely, especially at the higher levels, that runner is going to get out. And so as the trail runner, you want to take advantage of getting every base that you can. So if the runner is in a rundown between third and home and you just put the ball in play, if you can get to third, get to third. You know, then if the lead runner happens to be able to dive back into third and you know that she's going to be safe there, you can pop off and either try to get back in a second or now get into another rundown there. If it's say a first and third situation, the runner from first is now the one in the rundown, that person needs to stay alive as much as possible and hopefully allow the runner at third to score. So I think regardless of if you're the lead or trail, if you're in the rundown, stay alive as long as you can, and the other runner gain as many bases as possible.
Now, Erica, in a rundown situation, you know, are you, if you're the trail runner, are you kind of thinking of what's coming up, or, you know, kind of playing off that play and see what's going to happen on it? Are you thinking anything? Or, you know, what is the process that the trail runner would be thinking about in that situation?
I think like Joey said, if I'm that trail runner and I see the rundown happening, like my assumption is that that poor base runner is going to be out. And so for them just to kind of prolong it as much as possible and give me a chance to get to that base that they were occupying. So that's, as soon as I see the rundown, I'm taking off as fast as I can, smartly, but trying to get as far as possible while still kind of watching how that unfolds. And like Joey said, if that base runner that's in front ends up, you know, safely getting out of it, then it's my responsibility to get out of there and try to also be safe. But basically, I'm just trying to replace the person that I'm assuming will unfortunately be out.
Now, in that situation, I think you know, you want as many throws as possible because you're looking to capitalize on a mistake that they make, either the throws offline or something like that. So you have to be mindful of you know, each one of those throws and kind of react to what happens on those two. So we'll move on now to our next topic, which is, I call it the psychology of base running, but it's more coaching, maybe, you know, what you're thinking about on the base pass. So start with you on this one, Joey. What pre-pitch information is important to have as a base runner, and how does that help you in live scenarios?
Yeah, so I touched on some of this a little bit earlier, understanding that the position of the defense matters and the conditions of the field matter. And one thing I failed to mention earlier that I'll bring up now is the strength of the arms of the fielders. Now, if you have a really strong arm in left field, but a weaker arm in right field, just knowing that you'll be able to take advantage of balls hit to right field. And so there's so much information with regard to base running and allowing it to play into your instincts and being able to make a read right off the bat. But I'd say first and foremost, checking the position of the fielders between every pitch to make sure that you know right as the ball is hit whether it's going to hit the ground or you'll have to tag up or it's hit right out of player and you don't want to be doubled off. So position of defense is number one.
Yeah. Now, how much would a runner be doing in terms of kind of reading the pitch? So you're watching the pitch coming in, and you know, if you see it go down, do you kind of take an extra step? How does that process kind of go for you?
That's something that I've been working on for years, especially as a runner on first base, and being able to understand that, okay, I have a drop ball pitcher and I want to be really aware of every single pitch. And you know, the number of times over the course of the years that the pitch happens and then I make eye contact with one of my teammates, like, dang it, I just missed that opportunity. So having that in the forefront of my mind for me specifically is important. And we work on that in practice, you know, when we're doing live reads, or if there's a pitcher who's throwing a bullpen and I have some downtime in practice, then I take it upon myself to, you know, practice the first few steps and the reads of seeing the ball out of the hand and just trying to ingrain that instinct even more.
So over to you on this one, Erica. So what other cues are helpful as a base runner outside of the ball in play and your base coaches? What are you looking for?
I think Joey touched a lot on it, but the positioning and then, you know, the defensive, like their strengths and weaknesses, you know, how well they move and cover ground, or how weak or strong their arms are. And then the other environmental, I guess, factors, you know, how windy is it? Is it wet? Is the playing surface really slow? Is it fast? Just knowing all those things. And I know that, you know, me and Joey list all these things and it seems like a lot, but kind of the more that you do it, it's just kind of like checking off all these things every pitch, and you kind of have to just have a plan and know, just as much as a defender has a plan, you know, if the ball is hit to me, what am I going to do? If the ball is not hit to me, what am I going to do? And taking on that responsibility as a base runner and having just as much of a plan, because, you know, you have been observant and you know what's going on, and you can really take advantage of the little miscues or things that you find from what the defense gives you.
Good. So Joey, as a base runner or as a coach, how much autonomy do you get or give in reading a play and taking bases versus having called steals and plays?
Great question. In general, I think as a base runner, it is your responsibility to understand your own speed and to understand different situations and reads off the bat. And the the base coach is there to help you when you can't see the play happening, when the play's happening behind you. So you're a runner on second, approaching third base, and the ball was hit to the right side of the field. That third base coach is very important in giving you information on whether to, slide round or keep going home. But I think when the ball's in front of you as a base runner, take responsibility for understanding what you should be doing, and the base coaches are then there to help make suggestions. But hesitation is the worst thing in the world with regard to base running. So if you are a runner on first and you think you can go first to third on this ball, you can go first to third, and your coach is maybe holding you up and you hesitate, but then still decide to stick with your instinct, you're probably going to get out and get in trouble. Whereas if you just stuck with your gut and what you knew you could do and continued that momentum, your coach is going to high five you for taking advantage of that opportunity and understanding your speed. Obviously have those conversations with your coaches and players first. But I think the importance of understanding yourself as a base runner is your instincts are for you, and you understand yourself as a runner the best. The coach has 15 to 20 players who have different speeds, different varying levels of instincts and quickness. And so I think it's super important for base runners to have those instincts. Called steals versus stealing on our own. I think for faster base runners, it's important for them to work on that in practice prior to be given that autonomy in a game situation. But a similar kind of thing, if you've worked on it in practice and you feel confident that you can take second base on a ball in the dirt or a close bobble by a catcher, then great, take advantage of that, ensuring that your coach has given you the green light. So I think it's important to work on a lot of these things in practice and have the conversations between the coaches and the players.
Now, Erica, do you have anything to add on to that? In a game situation, are you evaluating kind of the risk of taking an extra base or trying to take an extra base on your own? Or what's kind of your mindset when you're on the bases, depending on what the score is?
Yeah, I think it depends. And sometimes, maybe like if I'm at third base and I'm just chatting with third base coach and, what do we want to do here if, the ball on the ground, like, do you want me to just go on, that down angle I see the ball, or am I kind of holding up because of the situation? But I think kind of like Joey said, just my confidence, because I practice it so much, it becomes like so instinctual. And in general, I like to just kind of think and have the assumption that I'm going on the next base. I'm assuming this ball's in the dirt on her pitch. Like, I'm assuming I'm doing the next thing until I'm kind of proven or told to stop. And then that helps just with like that hesitation bit of, you're just going until you're told not to, instead of starting and stopping and trying to start again.
Yeah. And it's also, reading the situation also, because, you know where those outfielders are if the ball gets through. That kind of helps you with the confidence of getting to the next base as well. So we're going to finish this topic off with a question for Joey. So what are the most important roles of the two base coaches?
Yeah, I think the most important roles are being the eyes for the runner when they can't see what's going on. So, we joke about the first base coach being there to collect armbands and give you a high five when you reach first, but they have a really important role helping players who are on first base if there's a pickoff that's developing that the runner can't see. And same for second base. When that runner's leading off, is the second baseman sneaking in behind them? That's really important for that first base coach to be aware of. And the third base coach being the eyes for that runner, approaching them when they can't see the ball, and giving instruction to not just the runner that's about to pass them, but then the runner in behind as well, and being able to convey in practice scenarios, what are my signals going to be, what's going to be coming out of my mouth, what are you looking for to understand. So I think communication is huge with both base coaches, just with signs and signals, but definitely being the eyes when base runners can't see the ball in play.
Good. Okay, so we're going to jump into our next topic here, which is sliding. So we'll start with you again, Joey. There's so many types of different slides. Can you take us through each one, and how do you choose which option to go through?
So much fun playing in the dirt. So we, foot first sliding, we kind of do a figure 4, which you'll see in this photo here. Give Jenny a bit of a hard time for not being on her bum enough, but figure 4 slide there, and then from there you can move into a pop-up slide where you're sliding this way, but then as soon as your foot hits the base, you're popping up onto your feet, and that could be a situation where it could have been a close play. Now the ball didn't come here. Am I able to get up and take the next base? And then, a hook slide. So sliding kind of in behind the base path and reaching out with your arm and grabbing the base as you're sliding by, and then diving, going in head first. And that's something that when we're teaching, it's very important to understand the positioning of the fielder who's covering the base and ensuring that you're not going to slide your head into someone's leg, or, for example, sliding into home. We talk a lot about going feet first into home. Personally, I break that rule a lot. There's a lot of photos out there, so I can't even deny it. But for me, if there's a lane open that I can get to, I'm a true believer in head first being faster. As a base runner, Erica talked about, that sprinter angle, leaning forward, propelling yourself, pushing the dirt away. We're in that angle as we're running, and so it only makes logical sense in my brain that a dive would be faster than a slide, changing the direction of your body's momentum. And so at any opportunity there is to dive, I will dive. I think for younger players, learning to slide first is more important, and then once they feel comfortable with their instincts, they're progressing to teaching diving. There are awesome sliding mats that can be used for that, and at every level, and I've used them often at the college level as well, just continuing to work on those techniques. But I think reading the base, the first baseman, second baseman, third baseman, reading the catcher is really important when you're approaching a base to determine which type of slide to use. And I'll just use an example that I see a lot is shortstop comes over to cover second on a steal, and they stand, a foot in front of second base. To me, you're taking the backside of that base all day, either with a hook slide or a dive into the backside of that base, and they're going to have to reach, 4 feet in order to tag you out on that play. Coming from second to third, say the ball's coming from the outfield to the third baseman, and they're set up on the outside of the base towards the outfield, then you want to take the inside of that base. Maybe you're going to do a foot first slide into that inside corner, or a hook slide on that slide, or a dive into that inside part of the base. So I think reading a fielder is really important when you're determining where to slide or dive and which one to choose.
Now, Erica, do you have a preference? Do you prefer head first or feet first, or what's your preference?
I do prefer head first diving. I think it's faster. I also think that it gets you further away from the tag for longer. I know that when a lot of times what happens if you're going feet first, the person tags you somewhere up in your upper body because it's higher, or your head or whatever, and an umpire sees that and doesn't see so much like your foot got there first. So if you can dive head first, I think it's better too. And then just to go off that, like when I'm trying to decide what to do as it's unfolding, I think if I can get there before the ball and it's more of like a speed thing, like I'm going to be trying to just go straight into the bag. Obviously depends on what the fielder is giving you. And then if it's more like I'm trying to avoid this tag, the ball got here first, it's more of a trying to kind of deke around and maybe slide by and kind of get out of their way, instead of if I was beating the ball there, I'm just going to go straight to the base.
Now, I know it's a split-second decision because it takes, you're running fast and, you don't really know what you're looking for. Are you kind of focusing on the fielder or the base at that point? Let's say, for example, you're going from second base from first. Are you kind of focusing on where the fielder is, or are you looking straight at the base going right through?
I think that it's kind of like you're seeing everything. You might be focused on the base or your coach, but the fielder gives a lot away. So like Joey said, like where they're standing closer to the outfield or further in, even, just reading, watching their eyes and seeing kind of, you can almost see where the ball's coming in based on like where they're looking or their, their body positioning, and then, deciding to go the opposite way of wherever they are. So it just takes a lot of practice, like getting used to that and like being able to read it and be comfortable enough to not really think about what you're seeing, because I guess you have to be kind of seeing a lot and also nothing. That makes sense. Joey, help me out.
No, I would agree. I think right off the base, the focus would be the base, if I'm stealing second, but then allowing a bigger focus once the fielder's there and reading their body. So it's kind of like, yeah, you're looking at a lot of things. So maybe not honed in on only one thing.
And you don't have much time to look at either one either. I mean, you're there in a matter of, a couple of seconds. So it's really a split-second decision of, kind of evaluate the situation. So Joey, maybe could you talk about your favorite drill for sliding? You talked about using mats. I mean, a lot of mothers out there of teenagers or whatever don't dread that practice that they go and slide in the grass for a long time. But do you have any drills that you like to use with your team?
Yeah, so I think a really basic drill is just set up the sliding mat and have the players, one after the other come in, and you can have two players standing on either side of the mat with their hand up so that the player can come in and high five them as they're going down the slide. And that allows them to, get onto their bum and have their hands up and out of danger's way. A lot of players, and I'm definitely guilty of allowing my kind of hand to drag on the ground, and it's slowing me down on the slide and also putting my wrist in a bad position. And so I think promoting, especially from a young age, getting those hands up, giving your teammates high fives as you're coming in to slide on the mat, and then just rotating through there. So it's a super basic and easy drill to solidify those mechanics.
And now, Erica, do you have a favorite drill that you do for sliding? I don't see a whole lot of head first sliding. So how do you get comfortable practicing maybe head first slides?
Yeah, I think that, as players get older and they don't learn it, it gets more scary for them to kind of think about doing that. So I would just promote, encourage, young players to try it, and they're closer to the ground, they're shorter anyways, so it's nice. But just to kind of scale it back a little bit, if you want to start and have them on their knees and literally just kind of lay out penguin style, if you want to get them in like a very deep squat and be able to feel like pushing and kind of moving parallel with the ground. I didn't have a mat growing up. We were old school. We did like a couple, if it rained, it was like, okay, let's slide. But you can do that indoors. Like you can bring some blankets out, find any kind of mat, your worst sweatpants, and just kind of mess around and see kind of where your comfort level is. And like I said, just being as young as you wanted to start learning, I would encourage that, because I feel like more people get hurt when they're scared to do it and they don't really commit to it, then if they're fearless and they do it properly, then you really limit your chances of getting injured.
I like that answer, because you get to kind of break down the skill a little bit and go with what you're comfortable with. When you get comfortable with just doing it off your knees, then maybe you get more comfortable doing it sliding on your feet. So good. So our final topic that we're going to cover today So turns and tag ups. So I'm going to start with you on this one, Erica. How do you approach turns most efficiently on the base path and incorporate a two-base mentality in your base running?
I think like what I kind of mentioned it earlier, but I'm kind of greedy when I'm base running, and I am wanting the extra base, wanting to go further. So I'm basically thinking, you know, how can I get somewhere the fastest without slowing down? Because I can get home to first really quick if I run through the base, but if I need to go home to second, I need to take a little bit of a different angle, or, you know, first to third or second to home. And so to me, it's just this very tight, almost like a circle where I'm coming out a little bit. I'm not doing the banana, I'm not doing a question mark. I know that we get taught that a lot. People teach that, but I think that it's not as efficient as just really trying to stay tight and close to the baseline. And then like in the photo, you want to be really pushing off, getting low and using that base to your advantage, that inside corner to really push and redirect you to the next base. And I know that sometimes we don't get maybe the foot that we want touching the base. Like for me, in a perfect world, I would always touch my left foot, my inside foot to the base, because for me, that's easier to redirect and lean into. But if it ends up being my right foot, my outside foot, then I'm not slowing down either. I'm going to still push off and deal with it as I'm going and really lean and commit even more, since I have to kind of steer myself a little extra. But I'm always like out of the box, or, you know, off the pitch or the swing of the bat. I'm always expecting, if it's a single, I want to go to second. If it's like a single and I'm on second base, then I'm going to try to go home. And until a coach stops me or the defense kind of proves that they have the ball under control, then I'll stop. But by doing that, by not hesitating, by taking really, you know, strong, aggressive turns, a lot of the times the defense can see that, and it almost kind of rushes them or puts extra pressure on them, and an easy ball that they're fielding or ready to throw in, all of a sudden, you know, they bobble it, or it's a rushed bad throw, and then you're kind of jogging in like it's easy. You kind of put that pressure on them, and that's what, you know, how it paid off. So I always push for an extra base. It's a lot more fun.
Okay, so now Joey, let's switch over to tag ups. So which foot is on the base and what's your cue to go? And how do foul balls play into tagging up?
Yeah, so I am a true believer that where the ball is hit dictates how you tag up. So say you're standing on second base and a ball is hit in the air to right field, then I'm going to tag up with my left foot on the base, my right foot forward, so that I can be in a position where I'm open to that field. If it were hit into left field and I'm on second base, then my right foot is going to be on the base, my left foot forward, so that I'm open to that field. And say I'm on third base and now there's a ball hit into foul territory, and it's really messing me up that my video is mirrored right now. Then I'm again going to have my right foot on the base and my left foot forward, so that I can open up to that foul territory and see that ball approaching the fielder. I know a lot when we're younger, we see a lot of coaches that are yelling "go" for the base runner. That's too slow. By the time the sound then registers in the brain of the athlete, and then they get their body moving, they're losing time there. So I think it's really important for base runners to watch and to see the ball touch the glove. As soon as that ball touches the glove, you are gone, and to be in a ready position, preparing your body to leave at that time, instead of trying to take in an audio cue and then get your body moving. So I think really important for base runners to take control of that.
So the last question for you, Erica. So what was a light bulb moment for you with regard to advancing on an infield ground ball?
I think I kind of touched on this, but that beat the ball drill, when I learned that, and basically just having enough practice to read the speed and direction of balls. It helps at every base. It helps especially like at third base, it's huge. Understanding what balls you can run on. And then like we talked about, kind of going through that checklist of being ready and prepared and having a plan before the ball's put in play, so you don't hesitate. So the ball's in play and you either know that you're going or you're not. But I think just appreciating that the more that you practice your base running, the better you'll be. And just like really taking ownership, like Joey was saying she did, and getting those extra reps and finding a way to put it in your practice is really important.
So thank you to both of you for your time today to talk about base running. So we do have a couple of minutes here that I'll just ask a couple of extra questions, just in general, maybe not on base running, but just for each of you. So we'll start with Joey. So you're one of the best athletes I've ever seen on drag bunts. How did you develop that skill, and why is it so effective for you?
Well, first off, thank you. I love bunting, and I think that stems from just the coaches that I had growing up, and the assistant coach for the Scarborough Spirit, the late Bob Osborne. He would pitch to us off to the side when we were having BP, and every day to practice our bunting, and he would not go easy. So he would whip it in there on us and just force us to learn about bat angles, and he'd give us tips every now and then, but allow us to figure out, you know, how the ball is going to come off the bat, and just he challenged us. And just the number of reps that we were given growing up, I think that was the biggest impact for me.
And this one's for you, Erica. So you were phenomenal also at the 2015 Pan Am Games when we won gold in Ajax. What was it like for you to perform on a stage like that so close to home?
Yeah, that's still a special event for me. I think Joey would say the same. We play in the Canada Cup out in BC every year, but Pan Am's, that was kind of like our one shot to play at a large competition kind of in our backyard. So a lot of family and friends from Ontario that hadn't really seen me play on that stage, that was a chance for them to come and watch, and the crowds were just incredible. It was so fun, and to be able to, you know, it was a classic like extra innings gold medal game that we won, and still one of my favorite memories from playing with this team. The atmosphere was amazing. The fans were so fun.
So now, Joey, what advice would you give to young players who are looking to improve their base running skills?
Don't overlook it. That's number one, and just understand the importance of it, and that it adds such another element to your game, and allow, you know, if you're competitive, it gets you that much closer to winning because you're going to take more bases. If you're an achiever and maybe you want to add more stolen bases to your record, it can just do so much for you as an individual and as a team. And it's fun. So I know a lot of softball players don't like running, and so thankfully the bases are only 60 feet apart, but just to find ways to have a game within a game. You know, when you reach first, it's now a game between you and the catcher to see if you can get to second and beat her, or see how far you can get off the base and make her try to pick you off to where you can get back safely. So there's just so many different aspects of it that can add so much fun to the game.
Okay, so we'll end with this question. So I'll give each of you an opportunity to answer. So I'll start with you, Erica. What have you been doing to keep your fitness levels up during the pandemic?
I have a couple weights and a couple different things that I've been doing at home, just our normal strength and conditioning program. But I also have a garden out back that we started, and it's a lot of work. And I don't know if it's really considered strength or conditioning, but I know that I can put some hours in my body will feel it, and it's nice to be outside and do something a little challenging and different. So that's definitely been added. That's something new that I'd like to do during this time.
How about you, Joey?
So like Erica, figuring out how to get kind of a home gym situation going on and taking advantage of that. And also I've been fortunate enough to have a close friend in town who has a rack in his basement. So they gave me a key so I can just kind of sneak in there and go in the basement whenever I need to get some work in. And have spent a lot of time outside, doing way more running outside than I ever have before. As I mentioned earlier, not a huge fan of the long distance, but when it's in our program, it gets done. But a lot of sprints. Have found some really good hills to do some hill workouts on, and those can really, really crush you. So just, keeping it fresh and exciting and taking advantage of what I have available to me.
Great. So thank you so much to both of you for joining us for today's webinar. Any final thoughts before we go, Joey?
I think, just as I mentioned a few minutes ago, have fun with base running. It's so fun. It's such an important element of the game, and just if you look at it just a little bit differently, it can add so much fun to your day.
And thank you as well, Erica. I know you're also a frontline worker. You're a registered nurse, and this time has obviously been quite different from your perspective. So we really want to thank you for everything that you've done during this time, and all the frontline and first responders out there as well. Any final thoughts for you before we end the webinar?
No, I think like Joey said, just enjoy base running, practice it, volunteer, and it's that game within a game. It's a lot of fun. Take pride in it.
Great. Thank you very much for joining us today.
Thanks
you
for
so
having
much for having me.
So that will conclude today's webinar. Thank you very much for joining us today. If you have any comments or suggestions for our speaker series webinars, feel free to send them to Gilles LeBlanc or Angela Ballantyne at Softball Canada. The next Rawlings Canada speaker series will be about mental performance at 7 p.m. Eastern on Tuesday, June 23rd. Please make sure you register at softball.ca. Cela conclut notre webinaire d'aujourd'hui. Merci beaucoup d'avoir participé. Si vous avez des commentaires ou des suggestions pour ces webinaires, veuillez les envoyer à Gilles Leblanc ou Angela Ballantyne à Softball Canada. Le prochain webinaire de Rawlings Canada sera sur la psychologie sportive à 19h mardi prochain, le 23 juin. Assurez-vous de vous inscrire à softball.ca.